In yet another cruel stab to the heart of Nigeria's federalism, the power and position of Lagos State Governor Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and by implications all state governors in the country as chief security officers of their states, were challenged yesterday by some very junior police officers at Magodo Phase 2 Estate in Lagos. The officers, led by one chief superintendent of police CSP Bimbola Oyewole, bluntly refused the governor's directive to vacate the estate where they had purportedly gone to effect a court order. Sanwo-Olu had requested the policemen to vacate the area in order to de-escalate a potentially volatile situation following a Supreme Court judgment on the ownership of some of the lands which the estate was built. Many believed he was trying to avoid the breakdown of law and order as the parties awaited the resolution of the matter. Having seen the tension firsthand, he directed the policemen to withdraw, given that it was a case between private individuals and the state government. But according to Oyewole, the police team were allegedly sent at the behest of the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, and the Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, and thus could only be asked to withdraw by those that sent them. A Rise correspondent Tokubo Yetunji put together a report on this.
For the second time in 2 weeks, movement in and out of the Magodo Phase 2 estate in Shangisha, Lagos was restricted. The reason is the invasion of the estate by agents of the Shangisha Landlords Association backed by armed policemen to enforce a Supreme Court order given in their favor in 2012 in a dispute over the estate land. 2 weeks after, the residents of the estate were out again protesting the continued presence of the security personnel in their estate, despite assurances that they would be withdrawn after the December 21, 2021 operation.
Normally when police follow bailiffs to take possession of properties, after they take possession, they are supposed to leave. But after that day, we discovered that the police did not go anywhere. As I speak with you, there are more than 50 policemen camped, fully armed anti-riot policemen, camped inside the police post that we built. We built that police post. We still maintain it. And they came there. That's their base camp. Base camp to do what? We don't know. That's why we have come out to protest.
After about 4 hours of protest on Tuesday, the gates of the estate were thrown open. But just shortly afterwards, the residents realized that the unwanted guests had infiltrated the estate again and started embarking on marking of properties and locking up some others. Number 35 Quadri Adebi is one of the properties locked up by the agents, and the owner, Mr. Ibitoye, is confused on what to do next.
I've gone to the MRA Secretariat to report, and the chairman has asked me to exercise patience that they will look into it.
Some other property owners were beginning to get agitated and threatening to engage in physical confrontation with the police and the agents of the Shangisha landlords if the marking exercise continued.
It's high time. If they want to kill, let them come and kill us. We are ready for them. We are ready. It's time to go to war with them. For real. It's not fair. They don't do things like this.
Just then, the Lagos State Governor, who was presiding over the weekly cabinet meeting, ended the meeting abruptly and showed up at the scene. He moved straight to the police post inside the estate, which has served as the base for the police team in the last 2 weeks, to engage with the leader of the team and demand their immediate withdrawal from the estate.
Please, can you call your superior in Abuja that you need to deactivate and you need to leave Lagos now? Please, can you call your superior in Abuja and tell them that the governor is here and I'm the chief security officer and that you don't have any business being in my state right now and that I want you to disengage forthwith from here.
Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency, sir. I'm not here on my own orders.
That's why I'm asking you to make a phone call and tell them, your superior, that I'm here standing in front of you. Make that phone call.
Thank you, sir. I'm here on instruction of this Mr. General of Police. to the AGF, sir. And that is why I'm here. I'm too small or too low to call them. Your Excellency, sir, with due respect, sir, you can call them directly, sir.
So, pressman, don't worry. I'll make 2 phone calls, right? One to the Inspector General of Police and one to the Attorney General.
After about 30 to 45 minutes of consultations with the officials in Abuja, including the Inspector General of Police and the Minister of Justice, the governor came back to address the crowd again, this time assuring that the police personnel will be withdrawn and a meeting of the parties concerned, the judgment creditors, Lagos State Government and the Residents Association will be held on Wednesday to deliberate on a permanent solution to the dispute.
In the car, I've spoken extensively with the Inspector General of Police, the Honorable Attorney General, and we've resolved all of the issues. So what we will see is there's going to be a total stand down. Tomorrow we'll be inviting, the representative of the judgment creditors, the reps. We have actually started a committee meeting, but I want to invite them again officially to my office tomorrow by 11 o'clock, to come over, right? 2-3 of their representatives, the state government will be there, the Resident Association will be there, the police also will be there, so that whatever it is that must have been, brought about all of this, trouble and all of the heartaches, we will need to bring it to bear. We will all go through, every line of it, and we'll come to, I'm believing, an amicable resolution.
An applause from the crowd for the intervention as the governor departed. The policemen danced. Everyone seemed happy as the crowd of residents also thinned out. But deep inside, the residents remained apprehensive and only hoped that the meeting at the seat of power will help to permanently put the situation under control. Tokunbo Oyetuji, Arise News, Lagos.
All right, Sundu, your take on this sobering event.
Really sobering. Those who still have questions about what happened on the 20th of October 2020 can see some of the answers right here. But I want to start where Tokunbo stopped, our colleague Tokunbo in his report stopped, that meeting that's scheduled to hold today at 11. And it's not the first meeting. Since 2012, the Lagos State government has been trying to mediate between themselves as the judgment debtor and the judgment creditor, which is the Shangisha Landlords Association. And so far, it has not been fruitful. They've been offered land in Badagry, which they rejected, and offered land in Ijebu-Lekki, which they rejected. But the fact is that the Supreme Court judgment in their favor did not involve possession. That is the area of contention here. It involves allocation and reallocation. It involves an acknowledgement that a wrong was done to them. The military government at the time in the 80s should not have taken the land, claiming it will be used for public use, and then start to sell it. And they rightly went to court, and the court ruled in their favor, but not to the extent of taking possession. This is the issue. So Lagos State government has filed an injunction, an interlocutory injunction, preventing them from trying to take possession in the manner that they have done. That is still, pending hearing. But they've gone ahead with showing up to the Magodo residential area phase 2 with policemen and unknown bailiffs. We now have unknown bailiffs to add to unknown gunmen, because the Lagos State government is saying that it's the sheriff of the Lagos State High Court who should send bailiffs, and the sheriff of the Lagos State High Court does not know anything about these bailiffs. So who are these people? So this is just a complete mess on that front, which we hope can be straightened out so that everybody is happy. Because the fact of the matter is, yes, a wrong was done to the Shangisha Landlords Association. Yes, the court has awarded them 549 plots of land, but at the same time, should innocent people be rendered homeless? Is the issue. Just summarily, just turn up in your own gate and you see that your gate is locked, like we saw with that gentleman. So that's one issue which we do hope will be resolved today at 11 o'clock at that meeting. The larger issue here is about restructuring. We have to restructure. If I wish I had $1 for every time I've said we need to bin this 1999 constitution, it's a complete disaster. And I'm going to paraphrase Governor of Ekiti, Kayode Fayemi. He gave an interview wherein he said that if you call the Commissioner of Police of your state and ask him to do something, he will tell you, I'm going to go back to my office and make preparations. He's not going to make any preparations. He's going to call the Inspector General and ask him, should I go ahead? Before he obeys you. And if the Inspector General tells him not to go ahead, then nothing is going to happen. So he was making that point in support of state police. You will also recall the communique dated 5th of July 2021 by the Southern governors. Paragraph 3 talks about how federal security agents cannot just show up in their states to execute any official duties without their say-so, without actually informing the governor. That has clearly fallen on deaf ears. That, I think, was in response to that disaster that happened with the arrest of Sunday Igboho and the killing of 2 people in his compound and the claims that they were armed. But they have said that you cannot just show up where we are supposed to. They are elected officials. Who elected the Inspector General of Police? Who elected the Attorney General of the Federation? The governors are elected officials. This is such a blatant disrespect. And we cannot continue like this. We must have state police.
Yes.
Other countries have different levels of policing. How do we continue with this kind of centralized system? And it's really unfortunate. The fact is that the governor did go there trying to maintain law and order. And like I said, I don't think I'd take it kindly if I show up at my house and my gates is locked, a home that I own. So obviously, tempers were becoming frayed. Anything could have happened. He showed up there doing his job, trying to maintain law and order, which is what we, the residents of Lagos, elected him to do. And this CSP is telling him, blatantly defying him. It's completely unacceptable.
Dr. Abati?
Okay. What are the issues at stake here? The main issue at stake is the ownership of that entire parcel of land, 549 plots, known as Magodo Phase 2, and the ownership of it, the right of access to it. And that case, that became an issue between what is now known as the Shangisha Landlords Association and the government of Lagos State. Now, what is the rule? I mean, if you think that you are the owner of a particular piece of land and you don't assert your right, and you sleep on your right, you'll be extorted. But in this particular case, the persons who claim that they are the owners of the land decided to go to court in a 1988 case titled Military Governor of Lagos State versus Adebayo, Adeyiga, and others. And that case was in the Supreme Court up till 2012, when the Supreme Court now delivered a judgment to the effect that, look, yes, this 549 plots of land, indeed, Adebayo, Adeyiga, and others, 548 others, are the rightful owners. But the state government, having taken possession, should look for, one, a way of amicable settlement. Two, should also ensure that those persons, Adeyiga and others, who identify them as the Shangisha Landlords Association, should be given preferential treatment in terms of allocation to those contentious plots of land. But at the end of the day, the issue was about amicable settlement. The state government approached them, and there was supposed to be amicable settlement. Now, since that 2012, that amicable settlement had been on the table. Meanwhile, other people are taking possession. Now, in a statement by Bolaji Ayorinde SAN, law firm, BA LLP, which I saw, who is counsel to the aggrieved parties in this case, it was pointed out that Adebayo Adeyiga, chief, as is known, then decided to approach the court for a warrant of possession and warrant of execution. And this is what has caused the problem. And they've been on this problem since Adebayo Adeyiga decided to go to court to get that levy execution of the Supreme Court judgment of 2012. Now, on 21st December, the Shangisha Landlords Association, apparently led by Adebayo Adeyiga and others, and federal police, so-called, because the Nigeria police is supposed to be the police of the Federation of Nigeria, not of the federal government of Nigeria. storm the place and then try to take possession. And hence this crisis. The stakeholders in Magodo Phase 2 who had built property there then appealed to the Lagos State government about this harassment by the Shangisha Landlords Association. So at one level, I think it is good that the state government responded and that Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu went there with his entire cabinet to have a first-hand assessment. Because if you know Magodo Phase 2, I mean, it's quite an upscale residential area. And even if it was not an upscale residential area, it's part of the responsibility of the governor to respond to a formal request for intervention. So he did that yesterday. But on the issue of the case, the question to raise are as follows. One, why is it that the judgment creditors and the state government, and the stakeholders in Magodo Phase 2 have not been able to resolve this matter since 2012? Tondo pointed to the fact that the judgment creditors were given an alternative somewhere, but they refused, right? So why has it been so difficult? Is it that successive governments in Lagos State have not focused enough on it to be able to resolve the matter? And hence, the matter continued. Now, the other question is, there is a pending appeal in the Court of Appeal, and there's also a cross of appeal on the attempt by Adebayo, Adeyiga, and others to levy execution and execute a warrant of possession. So if there are two cases in the Court of Appeal that have not been resolved with regard to possession and execution of the Supreme Court judgment, could we say that Adebayo, Adeyiga, and others are resorting to self-help? And is that resort to self-help acceptable? Should anybody be allowed to resort to self-help? The other question that should be raised is that, look, why the matter about the execution has not been determined, the amicable settlement has not been determined. On what basis would the Inspector General of Police and, as alleged, the Attorney General of Police deploy policemen from Abuja to go and harass, the people of Shangisha? There are two strands in law. There's the common law strand, there's the equitable remedy strand, right? Established in 1948 after the I said 1948, that should be 1848, after it was demonstrated clearly that the King's Court was oppressive in establishing the common law. So what kind of equitable remedy is available? And that's why I think that the governor of Lagos State coming forward to say, okay, there will be a meeting at 11 a.m. today. They've had many of such meetings, I believe, in the past. We hope that under Sanwo-Olu, this matter will be resolved, because a lot is involved. Very quickly, in 1 minute, let me jump to the issue of the officer, Bimbola Oyewole, CSP. The man was genuflecting to the governor. It was at a point I thought he was going to kiss the feet of the governor, in trying to make his point that, look, he does not report to the governor of Lagos State, and he's very right. Section 214, subsection 1 of the Constitution establishes the Nigerian Police Force as a force, a police force for the Federation of Nigeria, and that section says very clearly there shall be no other police in Nigeria. Section 215, subsection 1, gives powers to the president of Nigeria, almost absolute powers of control over the police. In section 215, subsection 4, governors are mentioned as chief security officer. There no governor in Nigeria has any power over any police officer in Nigeria. There's a proviso in section 215, subsection 4, that where the governor as CSO gives a directive, that officer must clear with the IGP himself must clear with the president. So when the genuflecting gentleman or guy at the top, Oyewole CSP, Bimbola Oyewole, that's his name, keeps saying, look, this is instruction from a guy at the top. If you want anything, you as the governor, call a guy at the top. It confronts us with this same question about who controls the police of the Federation of Nigeria. Kemi Rotimi, professor, author of the police in the federal system, the Nigerian experience, is the leading scholar in that regard, has tried to explain all of this, all the contradictions. The police in the federal system the Nigerian experience by Kemi Rotimi. That's the authority, in my view, on this particular subject. And that is why many people have been saying, because of the contradictions that have been thrown up, we need to address the issue of control of the police. It came up in 2004, Nigerian National Political Reform Conference under President Obasanjo. It came up again in 2014 during the Political Reform Conference under President Jonathan. But, the people who want to control the police, they don't want to give up. And that statement to Governor Sanwo-Olu is not any form of humiliation for Governor Sanwo-Olu. It's a statement to all governors of Nigeria.
Yeah. And you see, the sad part is, and that's why politicians to watch it, because in all of this, even in the 1999 Constitution, I'll still go back to the politicians. When they want to play their manipulative game, they know how to play it. A la the case in Imo. But this same police that couldn't listen to a governor was said to have listened to a governor in Imo, and the IG was said to have said, I don't know about what happened when the arrest was effected. But in this case, this police officer said, I can't listen to a governor. So in all of this, we should ask ourselves, do we truly want to be a nation? And what makes up a nation? Laws. The fact that nobody's higher than those laws. And the fact that there's fairness and equity and justice. So this same police, in some cases, this same police will kowtow to some governors, will listen to some governors. Because it favors them, or they are on a political slant with those in authority. We should ask ourselves critical questions in this country every time. But it starts with even the conversation on the Constitution. And the fact is, if there was even a judgment given in 2012, why is it so hard to effect a judgment in this country that will make people resort to self-help? I ask again, are we building a republic? Are we building a nation? Or we're building a free-for-all tea party? Right, thank you guys so much. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Roberto Sodiri, Michael Wilson, and this tomorrow to give updates on Africa, global business, and COVID-19 activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rota Sadiri is here to give us an African business update. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to all our viewers. Yeah, so late afternoon, yesterday, the State House announcement was made that Dr. Doyin Salami has been appointed as the CEAP, Chief Economic Advisor to the President. And in this capacity, he of course becomes the first chief economic advisor that's been appointed by this president in his entire existence as president of the nation. And his chief appointment, what he has to do here is that he has to review the state of the economy and report to the president and give him policy advice. That's his mandate, essentially. That's the word I was looking for, his mandate as the chief economic advisor. So Dr. Doyin Salami is, of course, as we already know, he is the chair of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, which was, inaugurated in 2019. And what a lot of, economists and analysts are asking themselves is, what impact has the Presidential Economic Advisory Council had since 2019 with Dr. Salami as chair? And more importantly, has the presidency actually listened to its economic advisors? Back in September, Dr. Doyin Salami put out a report where he was talking about debt service to revenue ratio being about, 95%. He talked about the need to sell off assets in order to unlock revenue for the nation, dead assets to the tune of about $900 billion. He talked about, he talked about subsidies subsidies. That's something that's been going on, talking about for a long time. So the question that, everyone is asking is that with about what? I think we have about 15 or 17 months to go for this administration before you hand over in May of 2023. How much of an impact is Dr. Salami going to have? Will he be listened to? So it's two things here. How much impact since he was appointed, and how much impact he's going to have until the end of the presidency? And how is it that this late into the presidency, you are just appointing a chief economic advisor? For a lot of people, it is a head scratcher. Also, I got a gift for you guys if you want to go through this. This is a 15-page document of all the aides to the presidency. There's a number of advisors in there. So if you want to go through that, you can hold on to that. So many special assistants on the economy, special assistants on finance, special assistants on agriculture. These are senior special assistants and advisors to the presidency. So the question is, of course, the impact and if anyone's being listened to. There's an example. And also let's talk about the chief members of the president's economic team. We had an exclusive interview with the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And she was asked, what is your biggest achievement? What are you most proud of? And she had to think. She was like, oh, she's done a lot. But, she's most proud of the fact that she wiped off Nigeria's Paris Club debt under the Obasanjo administration. As Minister of Finance, she was an advisor. In her capacity, she advised that the debt, what needed to be done for the debt to be reduced. So if you think about the members of the president's team, Zainab Ahmed, Minister of Finance, Godwin Emefiele is in today's This Day newspaper, his comment from the Monetary Policy Committee communique, where he was talking about the need for structural reforms to push this country forward. Godwin Emefiele is an economic advisor. Ben Akabweze is the Director General of the Budget Office. He is an advisor. Dr. Prince Clem Agba, the Minister of State for Budget, he's an advisor. I mean, there are all these agents that lead different sectors of the economy. Chris Ngige is the Minister of State for Employment and Labor. Festus Keyamo is Chris Ngige is the Minister of State for Employment and Labor. Festus Keyamo is the Minister of State for Employment and Labor. I mean, there's so many of these. Are any of these folks being listened to? Subsidies. You had an exclusive interview with the president. Founder of This Day Arise News, Prince Ndukar Gbagbena, asked the president face-to-face about subsidies. Will you remove them? The president said that, people will uprise and it's a matter of security. So I put all this together to say, again, Doyin Salami has been he's appointed since 2019. By the way, there are other superstars on this Presidential Economic Advisory Council. Bismarck Rewane is on there as well. I think Charles Soludo is on that list as well. Charles Soludo is a member of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. So you've got all these well-renowned economists that know what they're doing. And yet, what do we show? What's GDP growth between 2019 and 2020? So it's a head scratcher. Very quickly, move on to what other countries? Who else is making? This is the biggest news in Africa, but who else is making news? Kenya. Egypt, sorry. Egypt, I didn't know this. Do you know that Egypt has a furniture export council? I did not know this. Egypt made $236 million in furniture exports in 2021. And I did not know they have a furniture export council. The top 10 nations that get, now $236 million might not be a lot, but you convert that to 415 at the exchange rate, that's almost 100 billion naira. I mean, that's more than the IGR of some of the states in the northern Nigeria. So that's a lot of money. On the list of countries that import furniture from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Iraq, the United States, Italy. And that's a 7% increase. And then finally, Kenya. Kenya, apparently, KFC Kenya is suffering a potato shortage due to supply chain issues. But interestingly enough, they do not collect potatoes, this is for their French fries, from local potato farmers in Kenya because of specifications, quality control, and track and trace. Yeah. They get their potatoes, guess what, from Egypt, South Africa, and the Netherlands. So they're saying they'll turn to local production, but there's a number of issues going on there. So the COVID and its issues, supply chain issues, they've impacted companies around the continent.
There was a story about that in Japan, where
McDonald's
couldn't give French fries, and there was a huge row, as you can well imagine.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing, because they are quality control, they cannot use Japanese potatoes.
Right.
It sounds really odd.
It does, it really does.
Egypt, I'm so impressed with Egypt. I had no idea.
I didn't know this.
So they're coming for Turkey's crown. Like you said, just to put it in context, Turkey made upwards of $4 billion last year Even with COVID, supply chain, blah, blah, they still made that amount of money from furniture exports.
That's almost,
so that's a massive
almost
market.
10% of our 2022 budget. Our
It's
budget
a
is
huge
40-something
market.
billion, right?
Furniture.
Yeah.
That's from furniture alone.
from furniture.
10%.
You see, sometimes I wonder if we really think in this country. But it's obvious we don't do a lot of it. We don't do a lot of thinking. Apart from that, Rotus, youngsters, people aged between 15 to 30 in this country bought in $1 billion in foreign direct investment. From what? From the tech sector into this country. These are the same people that police will harass on the road when they see laptops in their bag.
And dreads.
And dreadlocks.
Yeah.
These are the same people we humiliate. That 1 billion takes about 1/10 of government revenue in this country. So we don't think. I've been saying it, when will government even have a tech city in this country? Tax-free region where people can incorporate these companies, and you will see how it will grow.
Yeah.
Vast amounts of land, we keep shouting on governed spaces, bandits, Boko Haram, sleeping in those vast amounts of land. Go in there with your bulldozers. Set up a tax-free tax haven.
Those are the dead assets
Yeah.
that Doing Salami is saying
that's dead
needs to be dead capital that
see,
needs to be sold on.
Andrew Nevin and I was the one that started the conversation before Andrew wrote it in PricewaterhouseCoopers book.
Right. So who is
These are
listening
dead
to
capital, but we don't do a lot of thinking.
Right.
That's
Or
just
no,
the problem in the country.
In fact, we don't listen. I think that's the issue.
See,
we don't listen.
See,
the thinking is that we just don't listen.
I first started, you see, many years ago, people have started talking about it. Professor Hernando de Soto wrote a book about it, The Mystery of Capital.
Okay.
Dead capital, and how we can. But what do? We have a lot of advisors here and
It's
there.
there. If anyone wants to.
Pages of advisors, Dr. Abbas.
Well, I mean,
Yes,
you don't need to bust a vein over advisors. I mean, the Constitution recognizes the fact that the president cannot do the job alone. So he appoints ministers, he appoints advisors. Under the Constitution, he's entitled to 22 special advisors who go through the approval of the National Assembly. All these people in the other categories, senior special assistants, they are all supposed to help to deliver, right? Okay, but that's, we can deal with that about how to have big government or to have lean government.
Right.
But let me comment on Doyin Salami's appointment. Well, I don't know whether to congratulate him or to sympathize with him or to commiserate with him.
Oh, boy.
I say that because I don't know whether he needs the job or not. It's just 16 months to the end of the administration. What difference can he make? But he comes to the job with very strong credentials. 1989 PhD from Queen Mary College, University of London, managing director of Cairo's consulting company, adjunct professor at the Lagos Business School. He's been a member of the federal government economic management team. He's also been a member of the Central Bank Monetary Policy Committee. And most recently, he was made chairman of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. So he knows where the corpses are buried, at least to some extent. What this appointment does for him is that it gives him executive power. But he's taking that executive power at a time when he will not be able to make much difference. In 2022, when he's going to settle into that position, 80 months after the administration assumed office, we'll be going into election year.
Yep.
The major priorities for this government, we were told in 2015, included the economy. If indeed the economy was that important, you will have appointed, as other administrations did since 1999, a chief economic advisor who will be part of the policy formulation process from the very beginning. And now 16 months to go, when the government is going to be lame duck, almost effectively within 6-7 months. In fact, I'm even being generous because politics is going to start heavily. Doyin Salami won't be able to do much because nobody will listen to him. Right. Everybody will be thinking of how to install a governor in their state or how to become president or how to get involved in the political process so that if APC wins, they will still be part of the game. Right. Or if PDP wins, of course, you know how it is. They will all move to the People's Democratic Party or to whichever party wins. And he's coming in as chief economic advisor at a critical moment when inflation is going through the roof, when inflation is very high. Look, if Doyin Salami is not careful, he will become the fall guy for the failure within the economy of Nigeria. Because if at some point this year, as we are being told, government removes subsidy.
Yeah.
Everything is going to go south. And he will be blamed as the man who presided over that. But I think the title, Chief Economic Advisor, fanciful enough, very good on the CV. That may be for him a special attraction. So even the Presidential Economic Advisory Council meeting that he led couldn't make any difference. We sat here saying, what is this Economic Advisory Council doing? We don't know. And in any case, in terms of ideas, his own ideas about economic growth and progress and development are diametrically opposed to all the policy orientations of this government, either with regard to the debt stock or with regard to debt service to revenue ratio and all of that. So what difference is he going to make? Nobody is going to listen to him. And he may probably be treated suspiciously by the standing economic team, the National Economic Council, who will be wondering, where is this man coming from?
Oh dear, when an appointment is a poison chalice. Thank you, Roger.
My opinion.
Of course, thank you. Thank you so much.
Moving on to more business updates, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. It's a move, really, from the Nasdaq to the Dow, if you want to sort of just put it in other words, from growth to value stocks. That's what's going on at the moment. Plus the fact that the overseeing all this is the fact that the Fed is going to taper its asset purchases and also would probably start hiking rates early in the year. So that's what's underlying the market. So let's see what's happened as far as Asia Pacific is concerned, and mainly the stocks have fallen there. Technology stocks under pressure, US yields up and so on. So that's one of the reasons, as I said, this kind of shift from the Nasdaq to the Dow is beginning to take place at the moment. Shares in other Chinese tech companies actually fell also, Meituan and Kuaishou, and the Hang Seng down about 3.5%. Those moves come as treasury yields, as I said, are growing at a huge pace in the United States, and that's shifting basically the way people are investing. Chinese banks are cutting back on traditional lending. They have a state quota that they have to get to every year. Back on that and going for less interest bearing but slightly less riskier loans as well. Evergrande is going to meet its investors. That's the big news about this. From the 7th to the 10th, I think those investors should be terribly careful about what Evergrande said, because the bottom line is, of course, that they'll want to extend their credit lines. And Chinese investment firm shares slumped. This is the scandal hit China Huarong Asset Management, down about 50% after the state bailout had to come in there. The firm's former chairman was executed last year after being found guilty of corruption. China is launching an app currency as it looked to expand usage. This is not Bitcoin. This is its own national digital currency. It's done a number of trials and so on, and now in certain cities you can actually use it to buy things as well. Now here's an interesting one for you. Sony is about to enter the race, it looks like, about electric vehicles. Its company is going to be called, or is called now, Sony Mobility. It's just exploring what's going on at the moment, but do remember that what it did was it did launch a prototype earlier in the year, and it may be that Sony wants to capitalize on that. As far as the United States is concerned, let's recap what's going on there. I told you about this shift from the Nasdaq to the Dow. The Dow climbed 200 points to a new high. That's the way the markets are actually going right now. The closely watched 10-year benchmark yield also high at 1.71%. So that's a selling in growth-oriented technology stocks into slightly more traditional ones. Warren Buffett, God bless him, the sage of Omaha, made $120 billion on Apple's recent rise. I told you yesterday it's the first company to reach 3 trillion market cap. It did that briefly yesterday, and it's also enjoyed regular dividends from Apple, averages about £775 million in dividends so far. Pressure on global supply goods as well, notwithstanding. Speaking of which, there's a new index out now from the New York Stock Exchange. The Fed and the Fed also, as a result of this, target targeted a new app for a new metric for global supplies. It thinks that global supplies are over. It's a new barometer. It's called the Global Supply Chain Pressure Index, and it shows that global supply chain pressures have reached dizzying heights, but maybe actually leveling off slightly. So, what do you get when you get a load of different states together in the dream of nationalising and then finding out that the real world is rather difficult? Well, you're getting what's being seen at the moment in the EU. It's demanding a seat at the Ukraine talks as Russia prepares to meet NATO and the US. Brussels has been sidelined. Everybody knows it's got its own internal divisions, and a lot of countries, including Germany, have been going unilaterally to Russia. The Germans are going later this week to talk to Moscow about how things may work out. And of course, this is crucial as far as the EU is concerned, crucial for energy, apart from anything else in the EU. But most of all, this kind of unilateral approach that it's having with no concrete defense policy, no concrete foreign policy. How will it go? I've raised these questions in the past. Be interesting to see how it goes right now. As far as the UK is concerned, the Chancellor is warning that there's no easy help for soaring energy prices. There is a crisis in this country about energy prices. The Prime Minister has said there won't be a VAT cut on energy prices because it's too blunt an instrument. UK travel firms are saying let's get rid of UK tests, of COVID tests, because the COVID restrictions are actually bear no relation to the amount of passengers who are actually suffering from it. 1 in 25 people in the UK apparently is suffering or not. It's not high enough. Boris Johnson is saying that the country needs to ride out what's going on. OPEC Plus finally didn't dent the oil price, even though it merely reiterated its increase of 400,000 barrels per day on a monthly basis. And gold, well, I've got some measures for you. 77.20 I've got as far as Brent's concerned. Brent at 80, WTI at 77.20 this morning, and gold shows some fighting spirit. Now, the doctor was asking me yesterday about things to look for in 2022, and I did a bit of research after the program yesterday. So I know that you like to ask me questions right after my little bit, but I've got some information for you. And I think what investors should be looking at is metaverse hardware at the moment. A lot of companies are getting towards the metaverse at the moment. If you don't know what that is, you need to get up to date on that. It's a sort of immersive virtual technology. Sony did a deal with Manchester City to have a virtual football ground. This is where the action, I think, is going to be in 2022. We're looking at companies like Samsung. We're looking at companies like Apple themselves. Now, imagine this. Supposing Apple were to come up with something of game changer of a headset that was as much a game changer as iPhone was to consumer tech. That's the sort of universe that we're looking at the moment. So you would, as an investor, be looking at things like server designers, acoustic suppliers, and acoustic digitalization experts, and also gaming and entertainment. All these companies are going to come together in this wish to get a metaverse going. That'll be the word, I think, in 2022.
That's a great buzzword for 2022, and metaverse has started already with the big incursion Facebook is making. But let me go to England. Rishi Sunak is saying to consumers that there's a limit to how I can help energy companies and bail out energy companies. Kwesi Kwarteng is pushing back. What is happening? Does that mean sad days are with energy consumers in the UK? And secondly, there's some story out of China saying that the government in China is pushing bankers to keep to the borrowing limit, to be able to encourage businesses. But they are saying that liquidity and capital flow is not just available in China. So the FT reported that today. What is happening in China? Only God knows anyway.
As I reported, what's happening in China is the banks are saying that what they're doing is that they're saying, look, we're not going to go for the high, even though it's against their business plans. They're saying we're not going for the high risk, high interest loans. We're going for low risk, low interest bearing loans, and it's being taken as an indication that because it's a state-run society and the banks are run by the state and have to lend as the state demands, if it's moving to low-risk investment, it's saying that the state is worried about the economy. That's what the story is in China. As far as the UK is concerned in the energy crisis, yes, it continues. The Prime Minister is saying that to reduce VAT, value-added tax, what used to be called purchase tax, on energy is too much of a blunt instrument, because it means that high earners benefit as much as low earners on energy costs. I don't believe that. I think you could target it in the same way that governments target the kind of help that they give to people who earn absolutely less. No, I think that you're absolutely right. Kwasi Kwarteng is meeting energy leaders today. He's the business secretary, and they will, between them, try to work out some sort of wiggle room within this business plan, within this business that doesn't actually make any sense. Now, how they do that is down to politicians and business leaders. I suspect there may be more help for vulnerable families, particularly those poorer ones who tend to spend more of their income on heating and energy. That's the way I think it's going to go. There's meetings today. I think we'll be talking about this tomorrow, to be honest.
Well, Michael, two quick issues. First, let's start with Turkey. Turkey inflation has gone up 36%. Cost of living has risen by about 50%. People in Istanbul are queuing up to collect and buy subsidized bread. The cost of gas, electricity bills, all of these have gone up. Even Erdogan's rating has gone down as the country prepares for 2023, the elections in 2023. But still, the president of Turkey is saying that Turkey is going through a transformation that will place it in the next league. How true is that? When is the bubble going to burst for Erdogan? Now that it looks like the people are the ones bearing the brunt of his unorthodox economic policies. The second issue has to do with Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes. What's next for Elizabeth Holmes? Yes, I know sentencing, but what kind of sentencing are we likely to see? Because they could go on appeal, they could work out a deal, and the judge may just be very lenient with Elizabeth Holmes. And then should anybody still even think of investing in that troubled company? In other words, what's next also for Theranos itself?
I don't know my way around the US legal system, so I've got no idea what's next for Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes. I don't know. We're going to see more hearings this week. There'll be more hearings next week. I think it's down to the judges. How they actually deal with that, I don't know. But it's clear that there's a move afoot for the legal authorities in the United States to attack companies that promise high, as she did. She promised that they could research diseases from a single drop of blood, and apparently people are saying this is not the case. This is a legal problem, and this is a legal matter. I'm not an expert on that. I simply don't know. I personally, why would you even go near anything like that when there's still legal processes to go through? As far as Turkey's concerned, I, like you, share the amazement at what goes on in that country. I would, however, point to the fact that I was saying last week, wasn't I, that some car manufacturing countries and some manufacturers have actually onshored, if you can talk about Turkey as onshoring, away from the Far East, not quite to Europe, but to Turkey, because of its massive and huge and very active manufacturing base. Trying to do, that's what Erdogan is trying to do. He's trying to create an economy which is actually attracting foreign investment because of low interest rates. I have to say it's a race, isn't it, between what happens first, inflation or low interest rates. All I can say is that the tourist industry will welcome it, because people like me who really enjoy going to Turkey, and there are many of us in the UK and many of us in Europe, taking advantage of a weak currency, nothing to do with us, just the way it is, and enjoying the enormous hospitality and friendliness that we get from the Turkish people. That's a win as far as I'm concerned. As far as the country is concerned, I hold my breath and stand back just like you do in amazement at what's going on.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilson. We'll take a short break now on the morning show. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For an update on the COVID-19 pandemic, Adeswa Omora is here with us. Good morning, Adeswa.
Good morning, Tunu. Great to see you again. Good morning, Rufai, and good morning, Dr. Abati.
Good morning, the Queen of the Edo Kingdom. Until you tell me the story behind the story.
I had no idea, Tunu handed over the baton back to you.
Yes, I had to.
Anyway, what do you have for us?
Great to see you all.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, not so great news. And you should have the Johns Hopkins University pandemic tally at a glance on the screen any moment from now. As countries around the world are witnessing record number of COVID-19 infections in months, some since the pandemic began. And this comes as the World Health Organization, the global health body, is again warning that rich countries, the world's most wealthiest, cannot boost their way out of the coronavirus pandemic. Well, as nations across the world continue to struggle to contain the outbreak of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus, the United States has become the first country to report 1 million cases in a single day. Now, those infections haven't translated, though, into a large number of deaths, but they are causing major disruptions in hospitals, especially as well as in the education sector. Now, in his address to the nation yesterday, President Joe Biden says the key to beating the outbreak is for the unvaccinated to get their jabs. He says Americans should be concerned about Omicron, but not alarmed, as there are 35 million Americans who remain unvaccinated. Well, it's a similar case in Europe. The UK has recorded 218,000 new cases, with more than 1 million people self-isolating. France, too, has reported a record number of cases, with officials there vying to enact a law to block unvaccinated people from hospitality venues in the coming weeks, while India has placed its capital, New Delhi, under a new lockdown. It's a weekend lockdown for New Delhi, and Punjab as well has gone into weekend lockdown this morning. It's been announced. China continues with its zero tolerance as more cities are placed under strict, very strict lockdowns in China as a result of few cases in the country. Well, here in Nigeria, let's look at the latest data. In the last 24 hours, 428 COVID-19 cases and 8 COVID-19 related deaths were reported by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the NCDC. The new data, however, consists of backlogs from Imo, Akwa Ibom, Kano, and Borno states. Vaccination data in Nigeria shows that more states have commenced administering the booster jabs, leaving only 4 states without data to show if they have begun the exercise or not. And those states, if you have that on your screen at the moment, I could help you with the states. The states are Kogi, Kwara, Niger, and Sokoto State. They have no data to show if they have administered any booster shots at the moment. So far, 10.8 million Nigerians targeted have received COVID-19 shots, while another 4.5 million, exactly, 4.5 million people, or 4.1% of the targeted population in Nigeria, have been fully vaccinated after receiving 2 doses of the vaccines. Well, yesterday, the WHO gave some encouraging news. The incident manager for the global health body, Abdi Mahamoud, revealed that evidence is now growing that the Omicron variant is affecting or infects the upper parts of the body. To be precise, the respiratory tract rather than the lungs, unlike previous strains that could cause severe pneumonia and other long life debilitating diseases. Now, he is also cautioning that although this may be mild, the high transmissibility means that more people are going to get into hospitals, especially for those areas of the world where there are not enough vaccines to protect the people. Meanwhile, at that press briefing in Geneva, the World Health Organization said the coronavirus variant found in France has not become much of a threat since it was first discovered in November. While the world was dealing with Omicron and Delta, in France, there was a new strain. It's the let me see the particular name. It's the B16402 variant, and it is said to have at least 42 mutations. Remember that the Omicron we're dealing with has just about 30 mutations. Now, this has 42 mutations, but it has infected only 12 people. And again, the WHO says it is no cause for concern at all because it has failed to pick up since November, since it was first detected. But finally, this morning in Australia, there has been swift response. People are angry after Novak Djokovic received a medical exemption to compete at the Australian Open. Now, the tournament has very strict COVID-19 vaccination, restriction in place, but the director of the tournament says that Djokovic hasn't been granted any special favor. Well, the world number 1 in tennis has refused to reveal if he has had the COVID jab or not. He's at the moment on his way to Melbourne, the city hosting the Australian Open. Back to you guys.
I mean, I'm a Djokovic fan. I might have to rethink that. I don't understand this attitude that he's taken to this vaccination issue. He's a bit of a COVID denier as well, actually. You recall how he was flouting the rules and ended up having a tournament and an after party and caught COVID. I managed to forgive that. But this time, I'm not quite sure. And Australia, of all the places to pull this kind of a stunt, after what they have been through, they had particularly punitive lockdowns, you recall, which have only just recently been lifted. And I find it very disrespectful of the people of Australia and of the tournament rules. Just come out and say whether you've been vaccinated or not. And I think the reason why he's hesitant to do so is because he's playing to a particular political agenda. In some minds, he's a hero on people, that tend to be on the far right. They, cite people like him as holdouts amongst other sporting stars. So that's why I think he doesn't want to, come down off of that stance, similar to President Donald Trump, who, to his eternal, credit, has started touting the benefits of vaccine, but he did it belatedly when he no longer had an election to win. It's really sad that Djokovic would do this.
Well, I think the medical exemption that has been granted to Djokovic raises a number of questions. The first question is, why was he granted this exemption? The Victoria State Department of Public Health, which is responsible for Melbourne, where the Australian Open is going to take place, had issued a directive that both spectators and players, anybody taking part, must have been fully vaccinated before they can take part in the Australian Open. However, the directive issued by that public health department said exemptions will be granted in certain cases. And Djokovic applied for an exemption. And that exemption, we're told, was granted after it had been reviewed by two different independent panel of medical experts. But nobody has told us the details of what those two independent panels came up with. We have also been told that he's not the only player in the Australia Open that has been granted this medical exemption. But we would like to know what the names of those other persons are. Two, what has been the reaction? The people of Melbourne, the people of the Australians, they are scandalized. Because even other athletes are scandalized. Some of them have said, if they were the ones involved, nobody will grant them any exemption. And what is the point for the Australian government imposing very hard restrictions and protocols on the people of Australia, only for the rich and the famous, like Djokovic, to be exempted? So this is seen as some kind of favoritism. This is seen as some kind of an attempt at privileging, a person like Djokovic and, his likes. So people feel that, well, perhaps you have two different kinds of rules for two different categories of persons. One rule for the underprivileged, another rule for a privileged person like Djokovic. But what does this mean? What is Djokovic's own position with regard to vaccination? You know that, he had refused to disclose his status because he thinks that that should not be the issue. He is one of those people campaigning for freedom of choice. And he says he should be able to make his own choices, whether he is vaccinated or not. And he should be able to travel whether he's vaccinated or not. So at that level, this is not just about him. It's also about those people who claim that there's a connection between human rights and the right to choose, with regard to the vaccination agenda against the pandemic. Finally, what does all this mean? Could it be that Djokovic has been favored because he's the most successful, male player, singles player in the Australian Open, 9 titles. He's looking forward to his 10th Australian Open title, and he's also looking forward possibly to his 21st major, title in tennis. So the controversy is out there, and it will continue. I don't think that it's going to end anytime soon. As for the WHO expert, well, what we're told is the big statement from President Biden. He says, well, we should show concern, no alarm, but that this pandemic is the pandemic of the unvaccinated. So whatever may be the effect of Omicron, The US recording the highest numbers of over 1 million cases in 24 hours on Monday. The message out there from Biden, from WHO, from Anthony Fauci of the United States is simply that, look, if you get vaccinated, yes, you may fall sick, but it may not be severe, and you may not run the risk of serious hospitalization.
I think what the organizers of the Aussie Open has done is to empower and embolden anti-vaxxers. And I think they should have a rethink. They have shown the world that the fight against COVID-19 is political, that some animals are more equal than some. And when you look back in Orwellian terms, Big Brother isn't watching them. They have become the Big Brother themselves by flipping the law to favor Novak Djokovic. Novak Djokovic is a terrible COVID offender. He went for a party against every regulation possible, and he caught COVID. We all remember that story. Now he's decided to hold it out by himself, and what we thought before was that, he was going to miss Australian Open. Then the organizers had to make these new rules to favor him, which is very bad. I don't care about any independent inquiry and review they have done. All of this was just to favor Djokovic. And they should feel sad because of this. Nobody called for the pandemic. Nobody wanted it to happen, but it happened. So are you saying that others that will be denied or others that were locked down, Djokovic is way better than all of them? Are you saying that Djokovic is way better than the millions of Australians that went through the horrors of a lockdown? Is that what you're saying? This is bad. I think the World Health Organization, if possible, should step in and write a strongly worded letter to the organizers and remind them of their actions, because this is going to cause chaos. And a lot of people will not listen to the government again in Australia for doing this. We all know this is because of Djokovic. Let's not deceive ourselves. So Djokovic is more equal, is better than other people out there.
Well, in any case, the WHO is not in a position to dictate to any jurisdiction. They can only offer advice.
Yes, so they should offer the advisory now and tell them the implications, because the world is dealing with anti-vaxxers.
And just to quickly put it out there, Rufai, because the organizers have been speaking, they said there's a criteria you must meet to be granted this exemption, and they include the adverse reaction to the vaccine, being a recovered case of COVID-19, and having undergone a major surgery. And they say a total of 26 people have actually, requested this exemption, but only a handful, including Djokovic, were granted. They didn't make known the other people, but they are saying that it is in Djokovic's place to tell the world which of this criteria he actually met. But that these are the three you must meet: an adverse reaction to the vaccine, you must have been a recovered COVID case, and of course undergone a major surgery.
A man that can't tell the world his vaccination status will tell you the criteria at which they grant him this waiver.
Well, the onus
let's tell ourselves another thing.
The onus is on the Victoria State Public Health Department to provide full disclosure, so that it doesn't seem that there is hypocrisy involved or that there is discrimination involved. But clearly, this is likely to bring a lot of resentment in the direction of Djokovic, even if he wins the Australia Open again and breaks the record of getting up to 21 majors. Thank you very much, Adesua Omoro. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.